Hello, good evening. During the 844 system of education, Fred Matiang'i was the key figure of the initial development and rollout of the CBC curriculum in 2017, whereby he proposed a competency-based education system that is based on practical skills rather than learning theory.
My first statement to the nation is that our plan on the new curriculum remain on course as drawn and as established. Nothing has changed. If you look at our planning since last year, we envisaged that we are going to introduce a new curriculum using a phased-in approach as opposed to what many people may be aware of, or when many people may be thinking of a switch-in, a switch-on, switch-off affair, where we wake up one morning and say, from now we have stopped implementing the old curriculum, we are now working on a new curriculum. That is not the way we are going to work. We're using a phased-in approach. Now, I have requested the chair of the KICT, Dr. Sarah Ruto, who's here with me and who's going to speak, to avail to you the chart and the roadmap on how we are doing this. Because I realize from a lot of media reporting that clearly a lot of us do not understand how a phased-in curriculum implementation program would work. And because of that, you're asking questions that you would have very easily had answered if you looked at all the documents and the information we have been preparing over the last 2 years. We anticipated that when we get to 2018, we begin the rollout, first of all, through a national pilot. We trained 170,000 teachers to handle the material of grade 1 and 2.
During an interview at K24, Fred Matiang'i was furiously shaking fist, explaining the mere suitability of the CBC curriculum to learners and its fitness to the job market. According to Matiang'i, his explanation highlighted the CBC curriculum design as a move beyond mere academic knowledge, cramming theory, and passing exams, whereby a framework that was aimed at developing the key competencies in learners on matters of creativity and digital literacy. During his role as a CS Education, Matiang'i's leadership provided a national steering committee to develop the CBC framework that was clearly workable and ready to implement, whereby the entire structure and vision of the CBC system was successfully implemented across everywhere in Kenya.
Our education system and the way in which we are training manpower in Kenya was a critical consideration and focus of our Vision 2030 development blueprint. And as we moved along in this implementation of the Vision 2030, it is through constant reviews of the skills gaps we have for our development that a conclusion was reached after very intense consultations, extensive engagement, and so many reviews, that we probably also need to prepare and tool our young people for readiness to work in the 21st century environment, so that we move away from cases of what we call in the education sector rote learning, cramming and passing exams and so on, so that we look at how we can help our young people to further develop skills in areas where they are gifted, areas where they choose early in life, and areas where they are likely to be more useful to a 21st century economy.
While addressing the challenges facing CBC, Matiang'i was breathing fire, wondering why Ruto's administration was reluctant to disperse fundings and enough capitation to schools, as it ought to be. In his argument, Matiang'i's explanation was very clear, that the CBC curriculum and the way of training manpower through CBC in Kenya was a critical consideration and focus of our Vision 2030 development blueprint, whereby, according to the framework laid out in Vision 2030, the CBC decision was unanimously reached through constant reviews of the skill gaps available for development, where a final conclusion was drawn through intensive consultations and extensive engagements by reaching out professionals and experts from all walks of life.
This was one of those considerations, and the process was long, inclusive, very involving, tedious, collected data, brought in a lot of people, and we looked at so many experiences around the world. The decision, therefore, to now migrate to a competence-based curriculum was well thought out. It was consultative and inclusive, and the involvement of the broad base of our society was very clear.
Upon consultations, several reviews proposed the suitability of the CBC curriculum, scientifically proven to be more useful and with a clear skill set and accommodative to the learners in 21st century of our Kenyan economy. Matiang'i concluded that the landmark CBC transformational decision in 2017 to shift from 844 system to a competency-based curriculum was a decision well thought out, inclusive and well consulted from stakeholders. However, Fred Matiang'i blatantly blamed Ruto's administration for dumping huge public resources to fund irrelevant Nyota handout programs and empowerment, instead of funding the CBC and capitation to schools.
Now, as to what is going on now in the education sector, I have described it before in one word: chaos. It's chaotic. And it isn't because of the curriculum. It is because of the management of the sector and the way in which the implementation is being done. You know, Sarah, this is not rocket science. You don't need to be an aeronautical engineer to figure out the madness going on.
Yeah.
I mean, people just need to sit down, get their work done, and focus on what needs to be done. And then secondly, in the case of Kenya, why I find it very interesting that people cannot figure out simple, straightforward things like this in Kenya is because of the capacity in this country. We are one of the highly endowed environments in terms of skills development, very well educated people, a very patriotic population, people who really love their country.
Yeah.
And our civil service is formed by some of the best trained people around. So all that the government needs to do is be inclusive, be focused on doing what they are doing, be intentional in terms of including others, and seek information in areas they do not have information. There's no school where cabinet ministers are trained in this world. So when people approach these responsibilities, they should have the humility to reach out to those who have done this before, the experts who are there. You know what I find interesting about our country, and I can say this because I've been a minister before, is that this is one of the very few countries where you can get almost anything you need in terms of knowledge. I mean, you pick up the phone and call people in the Faculty of Education at Kenyatta University. You pick up a phone and call the Dean, Faculty of Education at Maseno University, or at Moi University for that matter, and sit down with them. I mean, you'll be spoiled for the number of people you will get who will advise you, get data, monitor the implementation, advise you on what you need to do. Then there's the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. All these solid experts, some of them who have been at it for quite a while, listen to them, work with them, and then ensure that the gaps are filled as you go along. The challenge can be described as in one word. The challenge is leadership. That's all. Leadership. That's where the challenge is.
On the question of working with the united opposition towards 2027, the Jubilee Party will be working with other members of the united opposition whereby, before 2027, the key figures of the united opposition will find a way of selecting the presidential flag-bearer to face William Ruto, provided that the formula of selecting the flag-bearer must be one that is scientific, objective and defensible to pass muster.
But in the case of the presidency, Jubilee has decided institutionally to sit together with the other parties in the opposition. So we are members of the united opposition. This was not an individual decision that I made or the party leader made. It's a decision that was made by the NEC. We are sitting there and the discussions are going on. And we are submitting ourselves to that particular framework of discussion and thought. Ultimately, when decisions are made, we will abide by those decisions, hopefully, and provided they are made on the basis that is objective, scientific, acceptable to everyone, and they are defensible. Because you see, for a decision to be one that you can respect, it should be one you can defend. When it has been done, if it's met, whichever way it will be met, if our party's candidate, happens to be myself, is not the one nominated, then we will behave the way that united opposition will deem we should behave. And that's it. And we hope that that process all the way is going to be, it will pass muster. It will be an objective, transparent, straightforward, scientific, defensible process that all Kenyans will see and say, anyway, this is what the place is, and this is who's best placed to be a flag bearer.
Inside the united opposition, Gachagua has been mobilizing Kenyans to support the united opposition, whereby he has openly declared their willingness to support whoever the presidential candidate will be mentioned as the flag bearer to face William Ruto on the ballot.
Sisi tumekubaliana, mimi Rigiji, Kalonzo Musyoka, Fred Matiang'i, Eugene Wamalwa, George Natembea, Martha Karua, tutaketi chini tutoe mtu mmoja akupambana na Kasongo. Harambe!
Upon selecting the flag bearer, the unanimous decision will be made final, whereby all other members of the united opposition will rally to support that candidate up to the ballot as the presidential flag bearer. Thank you and keep on subscribing.